Meditations for Every Day in the Year by Bishop Richard Challoner. Wednesday, after the fourth Sunday of Easter. On loving God with our whole soul. Consider first that we are not only to love God with our whole heart, that is, with our whole affections, but also with our whole soul, that is, by applying and employing all the powers of our soul in his divine love and service, because he made these souls of ours after his own image, and likewise for this very end, that they might be wholly dedicated to his love, and might turn all their powers and faculties towards him, to serve and glorify him forever. Bring then, my soul, bring all thy powers to thy God, and oblige them all to bow down to this divine law of love, and ardently to embrace its happy service, which will ennoble and perfect them all. O let thy understanding be ever directed by its bright light into the ways of truth. The light of divine love will expel the dark mists raised by thy passions and self-love, which so often overcloud thee and make thee go astray. Let thy memory be ever recollected by divine love. Let all thy words and actions, let all thy desires be ever guided and actuated by this heavenly charity. O blessed kingdom of divine love, when wilt thou come to me and take full possession of my whole soul? Consider, secondly, that as the will is that ruling power of the soul which is the proper seat of love, so it is the will, amongst all the powers of the soul, that ought in a special manner to be dedicated and consecrated to divine love. The will should ever have good for the object of her love, so as not to be able to love or embrace anything that is not at least under the form or appearance of good. Now God alone is the true and sovereign good, and he alone can satisfy the inbred appetite she has for good. In the love of him alone she finds herself happy. All other lovers do but impose upon her and deceive her with empty appearances. Therefore, for his sake, and because he is infinitely good in himself as well as for her own sake, and because he is her only true and sovereign good, she ought to give her whole self up to his heavenly love. Oh, how happy is that will that is thus wholly dedicated to the love of God! How happy is that will that is the eternal servant of divine love, and makes a constant sacrifice of her whole liberty and property to the all-wise, all-powerful, and ever-loving will of God. Consider, thirdly, how the great pattern of divine love, Jesus Christ, our Saviour, began the work of our redemption by devoting his whole will, without reserve and with all the ardour of his soul, to do and to love the blessed will of his Father. Hear how he expresses himself. Psalm 39, verses 8 and 9, quote, "Then said I, Behold, I come. In the head of the book it is written of me, that I should do thy will. O my God, I have desired it, and thy law in the midst of my heart." Close quote. This will of his Father was, during his whole life, the continual object of his love, the subject of all his thoughts, the motive of all his words and actions. He loved it so that it was his very food. He laid down his life for the love of it. And didst not thou also, my soul, come into the world to love and to do the will of God? Is not thy will given thee for this end? Hast thou any other business here? Is it not also written of thee in the book of life that thou shouldest do the will of God? And canst thou say with thy Saviour, O my God, it is what I have willed and my desire in the midst of my heart? O take heed lest, if thy will fall from this love of the will of God and of his holy law, thy name be blotted out of the book of life, which in effect is the same as the book of love. Conclude to dedicate thy whole soul with all its powers to the love of God, and especially to make over thy will to him without reserve. This is a devotion the most solid and the most secure, the most agreeable to God, and the most advantageous to thyself.